and my brothers that didn't make it back home, they're gods to me, man. All I can do is live each day the best I can and hope that someone sees that you don't have to be, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have everything in the world. I'm rich right now for just being alive.
Vehicle are taking fire on primary and secondary positions, requesting immediate engagement and overhead control. Engage.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Not So Special Forces podcast. Today's episode is going to be fantastic. This is episode 22, and we are going to get feet wet with a kick-ass veteran who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple months ago, and we've been staying in contact, and I'm going to be absolutely honored to get his story of service preserved and what he's doing for the community down in the South Carolina Low Country. Let's get everyone introduced to you to Juan Palacios. Juan, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, brother. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, man, so this is cool. Good morning. A little bit early for me down here, man. I absolutely love it. We'll get this thing kicked off early, man. So I just want to tell you that leading up to today has been something I've been thinking about. I'm glad we're able to put it together because you were part of a montage video that I put together when I spent time down at the Opfob. And the story, your articulation of what the Opfob meant to you was very moving. It was very well articulated. And then since that moment, we spent the whole week with each other, right?
Yes, sir.
And we had a great time and we got to know each other. But I didn't quite, I guess, for lack of better terminology, really get into you until we spent a couple minutes out in that field before the concert. And what you had described to me, man, really struck me. And it stayed with me. And it just reinforced my thinking about what a special place Opfob is. So I just had to we got to get into this, man. We got to have a little bit deeper dive into your service. You've done amazing things in a MOS that a lot of people wouldn't consider. People would be doing amazing things and challenges. So I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here today, brother.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So let's go back, man. Where are you from, Ron?
Originally, I'm from a small town in California called Lodi, up north. So, grew up there, and that's about it, really. But
Okay.
little town called Lodi, it's wine country.
Wine country. All right, you got a big family out there?
I do. I got my dad's family in Long Beach in Southern California, and I got my mom and her family there. So, got my brothers and my sisters. So, fairly big.
All right. You have any other veterans in your family at all or no?
Just my brother, and you got the pleasure of meeting him out
Wonderful
here at the
guy.
concert as well.
Hell
So,
yeah, man. Beta was a badass, man. It was
yeah.
cool hanging out with him as well. That dude can roll too, man, when we were bowling.
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of childhood you have growing up out there, man, that made you want to join the military?
To be honest with you, it was just fairly normal. I mean, it's weird to say back then, but I grew up in the late 80s, 90s, so it was always, hey, be home before the street lights come on. And, we're always racing home, but playing sports with all of our buddies that we grew up with, baseball and football at the park, basketball at my buddy's house. And one of the places we always played basketball was Hutchins Street Square. It's just an outdoor, pickup game basically. And that's pretty much how I grew up. A lot of fishing. Had a really good friend that I would ride my bike across town to see, and then we'd go to Lodi Lake and just fish all day, and then, go back home. So, pretty solid childhood, man.
Good, man. Good. Now, were you prone to get in trouble at all or no?
Yes and no, but I don't really say why and how. My parents are they were fairly strict, so we like to bend the rules a little bit, but no serious trouble. No serious
Okay.
trouble. I think
All right.
the worst thing I probably did was throw wet newspapers at cars passing by on a street. We were building catapults, and yeah, that's pretty bad. But when I think about it, I'm like, we were just having fun. And it could have been a serious thing, but it wasn't. So
All right. So when did you start progressing towards want to join the military? I mean, did anything happen in your childhood at all, or did any events take place, or was college not an option, or did you go to college, or
No, to be honest with you, I graduated high school and I went to a summer camp for football at a junior college, and I wanted to play football. I played football in high school, and I was a fairly decent field goal kicker. I'm not a really big guy, so I could take a hit. I just chose to kick a ball. But I went to a summer camp for a junior college, and I was trying to play. I wanted to try out for the field goal kicker there, but they already had a guy, so they wanted to put me as a slot receiver, just a receiver, and I didn't mind it. My coach was telling me that I'm quick, I'm fast, and I understand things. But when I started to think about all the nitty gritty of everything, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to school, work full time, and just be a part of my family as much as I'd like to. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. Uh, Maybe I wasn't able to, make it happen. So I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, and I ran into a Marine Corps recruiter, and he was trying to get me in the door. He actually got me in the door. I took the ASVAB, did all that stuff, and when it came down to picking my job, I asked to be a mechanic, and he's like, "Well, we don't really have mechanic slots open right now, so we're gonna put you in the infantry." And I was like, "Well, this doesn't sound right." He's like, "But wait, once you graduate the infantry school, we'll send you off to be a mechanic. We'll make sure it's in your contract." And I was like, "Well, let me think about it." I did. And the next day I called my buddy. He's an army recruiter out of Lodi. His name was Donnie Thatcher. He recruited me in. He said, "Dude, I got a job for you." So that's where I started.
did you chew your ass for talking to a Marine recruiter, knowing that he was
No,
an
not
Army
at all,
recruiter?
man.
No, not at all.
Not
Okay.
at all. No, no. It's funny, you don't realize it when you go to MEPS that all those recruiters are like, they're like we are now. They jaw jack and they throw jabs at everybody. If they can steal somebody else's recruit, it's okay.
It's
Um,
like a
but
form of guerrilla warfare.
yeah, yeah.
So that's it. You called your buddy up, recruiter. He says he's got a job for you as a mechanic, and you went ahead and you raised your arm. Now, when was this? What year?
This was 2001. So
Okay.
I believe I graduated in May, sometime in May of 2001. July 9th, 2001, I was on an airplane and out of the state for the first time, and I flew out to South Carolina at Fort Jackson.
Oh, you went to Fort Jackson for boot camp, huh? For basic?
Yeah, Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay.
That's where they sent me.
And now did I hear that right? That was your first time ever outside of California?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's I want like how was that feeling knowing that like you have this simple life, I guess maybe. I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but you got the simple life going in Lodi, California. You got your daily routine going, you're tinkering around with football and you're worried about, family life balance and all this, and the next thing you know, you were going completely to the other side of the country. How was that? Like, did you have any thoughts about that on board the airplane at all, or waiting to leave?
You know, I had second thoughts, but they weren't really, should I be doing this? It was more of just kind of, how my family's going to feel. Am I doing the right thing? Just is this going to set me up for my future? I figured I'd take a chance. I was already disciplined. I was athletic. So I figured why not, get something out of it, get some college money. That was big for me, getting some college money so I could go to school and do what I want to do. But also when I spoke to the recruiter, it wasn't um like I just wanted to go be infantry or I wanted to go do this and that. I kind of knew I wanted a job that was gonna give me a skill. Learned about mechanics when I was younger from my dad, so I figured, hey, I can do this. And I originally signed up for 3 years,
All
and
right.
3 years turned into 10. So
Okay, wow.
uh,
So, how did your family take the news that you joined the army? Was it something you had a discussion with them prior, or is this something you just did and then came home and said, "Look what I did"?
It was kind of both. For my mom, it was, "Hey, I'm gonna join the military," and she's like, she was worried, but she knew it's what I wanted to do, and she's always believed in me and had faith in me to, to do the things I wanted to. And my dad, on the other hand, it was more of a, "Hey, I'm joining the military," and it was like, "No, you're not." And it was more of a disbelief, I guess. But it wasn't anything negative. It wasn't him saying you can't do it. It was just, you're not really going to do it, are you? And it's funny, when I got to basic training, they give you your first phone call home, and I ended up calling home, talking to my mom. I can hear my dad in the background saying, "Hey, when's Juan going to be home? He's got to cut the grass." And she's like, "He's not here. I told you he left." And, he gets on the phone with me and we're talking. He's like, "You really did go?" I said, "I did." And he said, "Well, good luck. I hope it's what you want to do." And
Awesome.
that was that. So,
Awesome, awesome. Now, with your first venture outside of California, there's no more of a diverse environment. There's no more of a racial ethnic mixing bowl than that of a basic training boot camp platoon, man. So, did you have any shocks, any surprises, or were you prepared to be around a whole bunch of group of different people that you've never been exposed to?
I wasn't. Um, and I didn't think it was going to be something that, I'm not going to say it bothered me. It was just, I felt a little uncomfortable at first. It's like when I wrestled in high school, you get that first nervous twitch when you're on the mat, and then all of a sudden you just get going and it disappears. It was kind of like that, except it stayed a little longer, because all people I don't know, some came with friends, some didn't. They joined the buddy program, and it was just me individually by myself. So I didn't have a lot of people to talk to at first. So I think that's kind of what built that feeling and made it last a little longer, because I was just kind of nervous. I didn't want to offend anybody, and I didn't want to say anything stupid and be, Gomer Pyle. I didn't want, I didn't want to be that guy,
Right.
what painted as the special soldier. So
All right. So, all in all, how did you fare, man, in boot camp? Did you do well? Did you try and lay low, or just tackle everything that got thrown at you?
no, I basically just, I raised my hand and volunteered whenever we needed volunteers. I never said no to anything. I excelled with hand-to-hand combat, their combatives program that they teach you in basic. Just kind of give you a brief overlay, but that's because I wrestled, so
Okay.
I was used to doing stuff like that. The obstacle courses, just completely loved. Anything physical was great. And then learning, to shoot a rifle for the first time, that was pretty cool. I did really well with just, learning the fundamentals and keeping that in. But I was not a low key soldier. I guess I don't know what they call them in the Marine Corps, but in the Army, they call them high speed soldiers.
Okay.
So I was one of the high speed kids in the group. So
So, how much total time did you spend there over at in boot camp? Was it just one and done? You did your basic training, then they shipped you out somewhere else for MOS school, or did you stay down there the whole time for the MOS
no, I
school too?
actually, when we got done there at boot camp, they marched us over to our AIT, which was down the road from where we actually graduated from basic. So they marched us over, and we were still in Fort Jackson, but the schoolhouse was right there. So it was kind
Okay.
of nice not having to fly anywhere.
Okay. So, after you graduated, is that something your parents came out for? Did they watch you graduate boot camp or no?
Surprisingly, they did. I did not know that they were going to come out. I was going to spend time with a family there, the friends that I made. They were like telling me I can go hang out with them and eat some pizza and stuff at the PX. But my parents ended up showing up. My mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. How did your dad take the whole graduation thing, knowing that you did it?
He was proud, man. He told me he was proud of me when I graduated high school, and he told me he was proud of me when when I graduated boot camp. And there's a few times after that when I came home, from Iraq and being overseas and stuff. But it meant a lot for him to be there for me. And I think it meant a lot to him to be there, to be like, man, he really did it. Like he's got it. Like, I think it was more or less him glad that I was finding direction on my own.
Cool. Yeah, that's something else, man. It's I think a lot of, with you and I being veterans and talking to all kinds of different people and everything else and moving on and parents turning into parents and listen to other people, I think that post-school direction is a lot of things that are things that it's a thing that people struggle with, whether it be the kid looking to wonder what the hell they're going to do, or their parents really hoping that their kids got some direction in life, man. So it had to put your parents at ease a little bit, I would assume, man, knowing that you got direction and you got this thing that you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, it did. September 11th happened when I was at my FTX, my final FTX in boot camp. So that was kind of a shock with things, I guess. Or not in boot camp, but in AIT. And we were pulling guard with dummy rifles. Like it's just kind of weird. But all that stuff when it happened, it was just kind of, what's going to happen next. I think my parents were proud, but they started worrying after the fact when I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
T. So,
Yeah, no one saw that coming, at least the layman, right? It was quite a
yeah,
shock. It was kind of a shock. I mean, it was a horrific, horrible, terrible, shocking event for the whole country, man.
yeah.
And how, that's interesting that you were in boot camp when it happened. I'm sorry, in AIT when it happened. How did you learn about 9/11? Did word slowly get out, or was there a big formation, or did they yank you guys from wherever you're at and bring you back inside and turn TVs on? How'd you find out about it?
So, like I said, we were at our FTX and we found out, um, I remember hearing the drill instructors kind of, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily yell, but it was more of like, God damn it, and you could
They were
hear them being
barking.
loud. Yeah, they were barking pretty good, but we were just kind of there, I guess. And I don't remember exactly what we were doing, but we were out in the field and they pulled us all in and just kind of huddled us around and told us that the World Trade Centers got hit. And I knew what the World Trade Centers were, but I was just kind of like, what do you mean they got hit? Like what happened? And then, because it was just fresh. I think it was the first tower that was hit, and then they pulled us in. They basically canked the FTX, and we started our 12-mile ruck right then. Got back to the unit, and right after that, we had class and going through classes, and I remember watching some videos of what happened, and then we were getting, different reports from our drill instructors about, hey, this is what you might be looking at, and we're probably going to war now. Just a lot of different things. So the focus was no longer, hey, you're just learning your jobs, but here's a wrench that's thrown into everything, and you possibly need to pick up your rifle and go to war now. And
Yeah.
when I joined, I literally I told my recruiter, I was like, yeah, we're good, we're at peace. I mean, I'm just going in for 3 years, and here, September 11th is a horrible day, and I still pray for all those families and everyone, and it's something that's close to me, because it changed my life too.
How was that first conversation with your parents after 9/11 happened?
When I got home after I graduated and everything was said and done with a basic NAIT, it was my mom who had asked me, "Do you think you're gonna have to go overseas?" And I said, "You know what? I don't know." I said, "If I do, I don't think I'll have to go right away. But maybe, possibly." And I had signed up for 3 years, so I was like, I have a chance, but maybe I won't. And my dad, we just talked, and he just kind of said, "Hey, look, if it happens, it happens. But you just watch yourself and take care of yourself and make sure your buddies around you are good to go."
Hell yeah.
So
All right. So after you graduate IT, you are now an official army mechanic, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What do they do with you next?
Well, I was fortunate enough to go back home on leave, and then I got hometown recruiting, so I spent about a month home. I spent 2 weeks of hometown recruiting and then 2 weeks of just leave out, and then I showed up at Fort Stewart, Georgia, early 2002, and
Okay.
that was interesting.
How so?
No, it's one culture shock to go to basic, but then it's another to get to a unit. And I got to the unit later in the day or later in the evening. I want to say it was on Friday, so everybody was kind of already home. Um, I remember meeting several different people at battalion, and there was a Master Sergeant Hunt who came out, and he's like, "Are you related to Sergeant Major Palacios?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Carry on." And I'm like, "Okay." So I just kind of did my thing. And I guess, Command Sergeant Major Palacios, I think he was the CSM out in Korea at the time or something like that. I haven't really followed him at all, but it was funny how he just came out and asked that one question, and then he's like, "Just carry on." But then they sent me over to my company, Bravo company, and I met Sergeant First Class Welch, who was the acting first sergeant and heaviest out of everyone that I had met in basic and AIT. He was the first one that I met with just a heavy, heavy like accent, like a country accent.
Ah.
And I did the whole thing. Private Palacios reporting for duty, and he just told me to sit down, and I sat down. He asked me if a few questions. How was my leave? How was basic AIT? Then he asked the real question, have you ever been deployed? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, you're going to Kuwait, call your parents and let them know. And he's like, we start training pretty soon. And here I am, coming to the unit, and I just got back from telling my mom, I probably won't have to go very quick, or soon. And here we are getting ready to ramp up to go to Kuwait. So that was a big shock to me there. And then barracks, man, it's like one big dorms room. Um, I met a few guys up front, and I kind of regressed into the room a little bit because I didn't know the guys. One of them seemed pretty shady, and he ended up being a little shady. He's a character we had in the unit that would go AWOL a lot, and he asked me if I wanted to go. I think it's called Rockies. It's a little bar with a boxing ring in the middle of it, and it's right down the road from our barracks. And he's like, "Yeah, why don't you come have a drink with us? We're getting a few of the guys from the motor pool." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I got to make a phone call. I'll be right out." And I never came back.
Never came back.
Yeah, he seen me the next day. He's like, "Good thing you didn't go. There was a fight." He's like, "You're a smart kid." And I was just like, no, I just, wanted to stay in the room." But it
So
was
was it
different.
a gigantic open squad bay? Is that what it was? It was an individual
No,
barracks rooms?
barracks rooms were kind of like split rooms. You had a roommate, you shared a common area, like a little kitchenette, and then together, but you had your own private space,
Okay.
private-ish. There was like
Okay.
little entertainment centers between the two. So you had a split wall made out of entertainment systems,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you had your wall locker or your closet that you locked up. So,
Okay. Now, what was Bravo Company? Were you a mechanic in another unit, or was it all strictly mechanics and trucks
no,
and wheeled
so
vehicles?
Bravo Company was our maintenance company. Um, Basically housed all the guys from ELM, like the ones that fixed the radios. We had all of our maintenance teams. And there it went to smaller teams that they would send out to different companies. So Alpha Company had their own maintenance team that was on their side, but Alpha Company was made up of, supply MOSs, like, anybody that was in supply, and I don't even remember all the stuff, but they were the transport company, the transpo. Um, and then Charlie Company was our medical company. So we had medics, and then they had their own Charlie team of mechanics, but Bravo Company was like the main one, and then we had HHC, obviously, like the battalion guys who, they had their own maintenance team, but um, just a bunch of supply MOSs put together. But Bravo Company was the main maintenance company for the
So it
battalion.
was like this big conglomerate of a unit you were with. So it was what basically like an operational logistical support unit.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So he asked you, or he told you, hey, boy, you're going to be deploying to Kuwait, and you guys started doing, what kind of workup did you have or what kind of training led up to that?
We had our field exercises out there, and then those weren't bad. That's when I learned uh Bravo Company was in charge of the ECP, and we would always man the front gate. So we were in charge of the 50 pit. So
Okay.
I learned early on how to dig a 50 pit, right out of basic and EIT. So we did that. That was what our main thing was whenever we went to the field. Um, then
So
there
what'd
was
you guys do?
NTC.
Just you guys would just dig a big ass hole with some sandbags and mount up a 50 cal machine gun and have it pointed in the general direction you think the enemy is going to be coming from?
Pretty much, we'd set our
Okay.
sectors fire, things like that, but we were controlling the main gate, so we
Okay.
were pretty much just in charge of whoever came in and out. But yeah, it's pretty much a big old hole. Um, there's certain dimensions for it, and after a while, we got to play with the dimensions a little bit, and really work it out. But NTC was another one, the National Training Center out in Fort Irwin, California. That's our big exercise that we do before we deploy. It's kind of to check the blocks to let everybody know that you're ready. So it's 30 days out in the Mojave Desert,
Cool.
and it's talk about a tent city. You wonder why you get issued a shelter half. That's
That's
why.
it. That's
And
the reason, right?
NTC, yep, you find a buddy who has the other half, and you get to sleep in a little tent with them while you're out there in the desert. So
So how long from the time he told you that you were going to Kuwait to the time you guys actually pumped out and made it to Kuwait?
I can't really remember the timeline specifically, but it wasn't that long. It seemed like it was fairly quick. Yeah, it seemed like it was pretty quick.
Did you feel like you had a better gauge of what was going on in the world with everything, with Afghanistan and eventually Iraq and all that? I mean, did you have a different sense of yeah, this is happening and this is the reasons why and we're going to be going over here, and or were you just kind of, and I don't mean this in a negative way, Juan, because we're all young and I was ignorant of a lot of things too, but were you kind of ignorant about what was happening and then what your piece was going to be and all of
I
it?
don't I don't I don't think so. It was I mean there were questions obviously, but when they told us we were going to Kuwait, it was for a peacekeeping mission. That's all you know, and that kind of lowered my guard a little bit or lowered my
Mm,
expectations of what it was going to be. Um, hey, we're going for a peacekeeping mission in Kuwait, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not, big deal. It's going to be a, deployment out there, and we get to come home. But things changed once we hit boots on ground. But I don't. I think the closer we got to when we broke the berm in '03, you could kind of start seeing the signs. So I don't know if it was more of me just being ignorant to it or I just chose not to see it right away. I
yeah, it makes
tried to
sense.
push it off as long as I could, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was that feeling like for you? I mean, the first time leaving Lodi was the boot camp in South Carolina. Then you go up to Georgia for a little bit, head out to California, did some work up pre-deployment stuff, and then now, what was that initial feeling for you getting off the plane in Kuwait?
And it was hot. I mean, it was literally just when you open up the oven and it's preheated and you just feel that first blast of heat. That's what I felt like. I literally pictured just opening an oven, and at that point I was like, what am I doing? Like, it is hot. This is crazy. But it was a different country. You could see it's not the same. Um it's a culture shock. It's really is kind of shocking to you to see the little the little things that you take for granted when you're at home.
Yeah. What was the overall sense of the entire, now were you still with Bravo Company proper, the same unit you checked into?
I was still with Bravo Company. Yeah.
Okay. How was the overall what was the overall, morale? What was the overall, feeling and the air of expectations when you guys were in Kuwait?
You know, it wasn't bad. Before I got to the unit, I want to say they had just came back from Bosnia.
Okay.
So a lot of the guys there that I deployed with had went to the Bosnia rotation, and you know, they were pretty welcoming and saying, "Hey, this is what's going to happen. This is how things are going to occur, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what you look forward to. You know, here are the pluses and minuses." So I had some guys that, you know, kind of took me under the wing just to give me advice on the matter. We weren't all just freshies, you know. Um, but overall the vibes were pretty mellow and just kind of, hey,
Awesome.
we're here, let's dig in and let's do what we got to do and go home.
Now, did you guys start right away, or was there a little bit of a, like a little bit of downtime, get you snapped into the do's and don'ts in Kuwait, or did you guys step off the airplane, drop your shit, and get right into it?
I mean, no, not really. We had to get through some classes. They work classes a lot when you first arrive in Kuwait, and it's just really to help you climatize, but also learn a little bit of the culture and what you're, you know, where you're at, the do's and don'ts.
Mm,
You know, hey, you know, always be in buddy teams, don't walk alone at this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of different things that they prep you for, but that first initial time being there, you're really working on getting your equipment because you're sending your stuff out on the railhead to come overseas or not to go to the ship, and then the ship takes it out, and now all of a sudden you're going to the port to pick up all your equipment
mm.
and bring it back, and you know, just kind of there's a lot of stuff that's going on so you can get everything that you need. So any special issue, stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of one big admin pool where you're just collecting things and going through classes beforehand, and then you get to, you know, where you're going. So
So, what was day to day like for you on that first deployment to Kuwait? This was was this 2002 now,
this
or
was in '02. Yeah.
okay? So, what was that like for you day to day, man? How long were you there for? What was the normal daily routine for you?
Yeah, I believe our rotation was supposed to be 10 to 12 months at in Kuwait. And really my day to day was, you know, you get up, you do PT in the morning, and you know, you'd have breakfast, and you'd report to your section so you can start doing your work. Um, and our motor pool was right next to our camp, so I was in a place called Camp Virginia, and it was literally just a big sandy bowl. And there were different pads that everyone lived on. So Bravo Company had a pad of, you know, GP medium tents that were, you know, they had the old AC units in them that would die out quite a bit. But bunkers around the camp, and our motor pool was right down from our pad. So it was kind of learning how to do everything while we were there. Really just PT in the mornings, and then everything else was just kind of shop work, you know, making sure that your equipment was running. It didn't feel any different from being back in the rear, except we didn't get to go home. You know, it
Yeah,
was
so the fact you were in
still this,
Kuwait.
yeah, still the same standards that you had to uphold. You know, military wear and appearance, you still had to be professional. You carried your weapon around, you know, different things about, you know, we were sleeping on cots, and we were doing a lot of like scud drills, you know, NBC type drills, and just different training. You know, I had a Lieutenant Hall, who worked up in the office. He was our PL, and he was Ranger qualified, so he took a few of us and taught us how to, you know, clear rooms. He's like, if you ever have to clear rooms, he just started teaching us different tactics. So, you know, I mean, we're sitting around, but at the time, I didn't really pay attention to much of it.
So, how did you stay in Kuwait the entire time for that first deployment, or did you go somewhere else?
No, I did not stay in Kuwait the whole time. We ended up in early 2003, we ended up being on the band. You know, once we started going through the scud drills a little more, I kind of started to realize what was happening. Hey, this is getting kind of serious. Um, we're loading up vehicles differently. We're getting new vests. Um,
They're preparing for
get
something.
yeah, getting some sappy plates issued. Um, I want to say at the time I only had one sappy plate issued to me. And same with my driver. He and I were a team in a deuce and a half, and I was a 50 cal gunner for him. And he gave me his sappy plate. He's like, if I get messed up down here, that's it. So at least you can have some cover. But yeah, dude, 2003 on the border of Kuwait and Iraq, and just kind of sitting there, you realize what's going to happen. You know, there's only a berm in front of you stopping you from going. So
Right. Now, how long were you guys set up there for at the berm?
it was not long at all. It was not long at all. Um, it was long enough to keep you on your toes, but not long enough to let you take things out and get comfortable. So
So, like, in my head a little bit, I've got this feeling that there's a whole bunch of army vehicles facing one way, and you got this big ass sand berm in front of you, knowing just on the other side is Iraq, right? So, during this time, were you guys just in the back of the vehicles? Were you guys taking sleeping breaks? People on watch, guys listening on radios, and was there like a command sergeant major or a first sergeant, someone walking up and down the line of vehicles, giving motivation speeches like Braveheart or anything like that? What was that whole thing like?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like think of a giant like field with like a bunch of herringbones just out there, vehicles in different positions. You know, different trucks are opened up. We had the 5 tons that would expand, and that would be, you know, like a supply office or a battalion office. You know, you had your different sections that were, you know, together, but they were separate with their vehicles, and they were still operational and functional. We were still doing our, you know, PMCSs on our vehicles. We're still trying to keep day-to-day functions going. It's weird, man. You think it's like you're just sitting there and you're getting ready and you're like waiting for just the call, but it's like everything else around you is still functioning, and you still have to work on equipment if it's
Yeah.
broke. You still have to change out tires if they go flat. You know, it's just added responsibility, I guess. But you know, knowing that at any minute they're gonna say, "Hey, let's go." And our first sergeant Tolbert was, man, one of the greatest NCOs I've ever had the pleasure of serving with. I
Awesome.
mean, that dude changed my life. Um, and he had a lot of faith in me as a young PFC, you know. Um, but First Sergeant Tolbert and our commander Captain Letcher, she was wonderful. They would always come around and just check up on us, you know, see how everything was going, and you know, make sure we're good to go, basically. And you know, you could feel the love within the company. You know, mom and dad are walking around checking up on us and making sure we're okay, and then we
I
have
would love
everybody.
to have witnessed some of the salty responses from the guys that have been around for a while, man, because a young PFC is going to answer that first sergeant and captain a little bit differently than maybe some salty guys that have been around.
Yeah.
So I would love to have been a bug in a fly in one of those trucks, hearing some of the responses from the salty guys, man. So
Yeah.
so what happened, man? I mean, did they say that's it, we're going? I mean, was there a big overhead flight of Chinooks and Apaches going overhead and you guys followed them into Iraq, or was it like, hey, we're
No,
going now, and you just kind of started
it
up the
was just
vehicles and drove?
you know, it was just they made a plan for who was going where, and that was it. Then we all just kind of we would just SP'd and went our separate ways. You know, we went up to Baghdad International Airport. That's where we were going. You know, there's a big plan for everyone to go everywhere, and I don't know what that plan was because I'm just a young PFC roaming around, so
Right.
I can't really tell you. But I just remember having to lock into a convoy I believe we ended up being a CSS team. It's Combat Support Service team with another unit just for the trek into Baghdad. And then once we reached to Baghdad, we would veer off and meet with our main company. So that's where I ended up being in a deuce and a half with Sergeant Jimenez, who was the NCO that was my driver, and I was his gunner up in a 50 ring. I mean, just literally no strap, no nothing, just sitting on the 50 ring, holding this 50 cal and going through the desert, man.
Yeah. So how long of a trek was that for you guys, breaking the berm and heading up to Baghdad?
I think it was 20 plus days,
Oh
20,
shit.
I can't remember how long it was. We stayed pretty quick, but it was a while. It took us a
Okay.
while to get in. We weren't moving fast. Um, there was a there was a really bad sandstorm. It was like a really red sandstorm. I felt like I was on Mars, if that's what Mars was. It was just really red, and I remember it was probably one of the worst sandstorms we had at the initial phase. Um, and I remember covering my 50 cal with its bag, the cover, and it started to rain just a little bit. And at the time, we didn't have a rooftop over our deuce and a half. It was just kind of open. So we took our poncho halves or our ponchos and strung them up at least the best we could. And we woke up in the morning. It was just kind of like red clay, like red mud clay.
Red mud.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and even though I had the 50 covered, it still got in there. I had to clean that up and everything. But it took us a while to get up there. It didn't seem like it was a long time, but it didn't seem short either. We pretty much raced through.
Okay. Now, was that route already secured from you guys, or did you guys have any engagements along the way?
Not secured. I believe there was a point where we were going through a stretch of a city. I'm not sure. It might have been a village. And there were some bongo trucks that they had slapped some surface or not surface to air missiles, but they were like the air defense machine guns, and they had put them in
Okay.
the back of these bongo trucks. I believe that right before we got there, they located those trucks, and they were taking them out as we were kind of coming into the area. So we had support if we had to go through areas like that. Um,
Okay.
but it wasn't really, a lot of engagement across the way. We spread through some of the villages and cities that we moved through, but really across a desert. It seemed like we were just driving across a desert forever. Uh,
How was the overall sentiment with everyone when you guys were making that trek up there? I mean, it had to been pretty exciting at first, but then it's a couple of days, and then now you're more than a couple of days into slow roll into Baghdad. Did the attitudes change? Did the motivations change? Did the banter change inside the vehicles and over the radio at all?
I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't know how long it was into the trek, but we got some Scud missiles shot, and someone had called over the radio and called gas, the gas, gas, gas. And I was with my company commander testing out the Humvee because it was shifting improperly. So she had asked me to take a look at it, and the gas came over the radio, and um, I was away from the camp or away from our convoy at the time, and I had to drive all the way back, grab my gear, and here we are in MOP level 4, and no one really understands how crappy that is, being in MOP gear. MOP level 2 is fine, but once you put that mask and everything else on, it gets really hot, and
Yeah.
now it gets kind of, frustrating. You get nervous, and you want to drink water, and you add that old tube to smack into your canteen to drink. um and people are panicking, passing out, and it's like, what's happening. It's this, it's a fear kind of sets in, but um everything was just so different, man. It's it's hard to remember a lot of it because it was a long time ago, And I tried to early on just not remember to, I knew I was in combat, but I didn't really know I was in combat. It was just kind of, I have things happening around me. You see bodies, you see vehicles that were engaged, and bodies inside of them.
Mhm.
I mean, you just drive past them, and you're just so focused on getting from point A to point B. That's your mission. Hey, we're going here to here, but we're supporting these guys in between that section. So if anything happens, we got to support them with everything we have. So,
Yeah.
um, it's weird, man. It really is.
Yeah. So you guys eventually make it into Baghdad, you guys veer off, you link up with your your unit, other units and all that. Then what happened? You guys just dug in at the airport there or what?
Yeah, so we were trying to remember the exact area we were at. We were kind of near the officers' housing set up. We were by like this tennis court. It might be one of the pictures I sent you. It's me changing out a tire in a Humvee, and you can see behind me there's a fence, and it's kind of, I want to say that's like the tennis court area. We were just kind of like around their obstacle course where they kept all the officers. It was kind of like a military schoolhouse almost. I used to go through that schoolhouse quite a bit just to, see. Like it's weird seeing other classrooms from other countries, but once we made it there, we kind of dug in for a little bit and just did what we had to do. Supported anybody that needed it.
How
Was
was the
asked.
overall morale of everyone once you guys made it there and got set up? Did you have any kind of view going, like you guys are on this trek, right? You break through the berm, you guys are on your way up to Baghdad. You see some death and destruction along the way. You guys make it there to Baghdad, and then you get set up. You start. I mean, you have to have a daily routine once you guys get to Baghdad, right?
Yeah,
So once
you
you guys
start.
get set up, what was that like? I mean, were you guys? I mean, what was the general talking? I guess. I mean, that's something. I guess what interests me and what the question is, you guys get set up, and then now you have this daily routine going on. You guys are doing your MOS, you're doing your work, and you have your other responsibilities too. But what was it just like between each other, man? Like, were you guys like, well, fuck, this is it, or like, my God, what's next?
It was more of what's next. I mean, my brigade wasn't. They didn't stand fast very often. They were pretty much going in and getting stuff. And we were part of their support element. So, um, while all the other units were doing their things, the other small teams of mechanics, the other CSS teams were out there with those units. We, as the main body, just kind of stood by and waited to see if they were going to keep us there or if we were going to bump and go somewhere else. But I went to a few of Saddam's palaces to go meet with the other combat support service teams and see those guys and see how they were doing, how they were living, and just kind of go around theater and see things. Went on a few different missions as far as being a 50 cal gunner. Hey, we're gonna go here, and I need a gunner. What's your experience? You're a PFC, you've never been to combat, and you got a sergeant first class asking you about the weapon system and seeing, really just testing your knowledge, but also testing your grit to see if you're gonna
Mm,
flinch in the face of anything. But really, once we were there, we were doing our jobs. We were trying to kind of settle in and just kind of wait for the next orders. We didn't know whether we were going to leave or we were going to go home. We had to stay. It was kind of all around. Um, a good buddy of mine, early when we got to where we were at, I guess there was the MLRS had shot out some cluster bombs or some little cluster mines, and they looked like little D cell batteries, and they had a self detonating like system. It was a little wire with like a flag, and the flag, once the wind would hit it, they would self detonate. I guess when the MLRS had popped its cartridge, there's an explosion that occurred, and it burnt up those little flags. So there's a lot of those.
ooh,
There's a lot of those little explosives around, and we got a safety brief saying, "Hey, look out for these things." But one of the guys in my unit, Alpha Company, who later he became a part of of our platoon on the second deployment, Michael Chambers, and I think it was a female. And that's the first time I really witnessed, my own getting hurt. It was crazy, man. I didn't know if he was gonna make it, but we had some strong docs there at Charlie Company, but I believe they flew. I don't know. I want to say they were PJs, but I'm not sure. They freaking rappelled down out of a freaking Black Hawk, and they performed surgery out there for those guys during that, and they were okay.
Good.
Uh, it's just crazy how things are, but they made it and they're doing good. But it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
there's all this stuff. There's dangers everywhere from both sides. Is this just having to be on guard, you got a 113 out at the gate with a 50 cal, and you know everywhere else we have a secure perimeter, but it's like the perimeter's their place. It's like we're fighting amongst their homes, like,
Mm.
all those officers' quarters in the schoolhouse, and it's weird, man. You don't think that if you see combat in the movies and whatnot, and it's kind of back then it was you're just kind of going through fields, and here we are in an area that's got buildings and structures and like offices and homes. It's odd. It's very odd.
Yeah, it's a lot. Urban is a definitely different dynamic, probably than what you guys were used to during the lead ups and all that. Because the whole true mount training, I think, after 9/11 and that first Operation Iraqi Freedom tool, that's when I think the military really started dumping a lot of money into the pre-deployment mount training and all that because
Yeah.
of some of the things that took place there. So I can imagine it having because there's threats all over the place, right? When you're rolling through a village, when you're rolling through a small town or a city, and you're mounted up on that 50 cal, I mean, you got to get. It's got to be exhausting doing a nonstop 360-degree scan the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah. It is. I mean, your eyes get tired, your neck gets tired. I mean, you're just on guard. You're tired at the end of the mission, or you're tired at the end of the day, because it's like you're looking at everything as a threat. I mean, you have an ROE, you have, people to look for, but when we were in Kuwait, they were telling us this is what you're looking for. These are the uniforms that the enemy is going to be wearing, and this is how you engage. And I mean, we went through all of this, but then all of a sudden it's just regular people wearing regular clothes. His guard had
Yep.
basically dropped their uniforms and like fleed. um but we were still, you're still fighting people that are just seem like regular people.
Yeah.
um you had to constantly be on guard, and especially if you were going to their markets to try to get, ice, or purchase some sort of food, or anything that the unit might need. There are times we had to go to the markets to get ice because it's hot, man, and they sell big, like 4-foot blocks of ice, and we'd go out there and buy ice so people can have a little bit of a comfort. Um but it's weird. It's crowded and it's very unkept. um it's It's not like being here.
Yeah.
Not like being here at all.
Um, so overall, how long was that first deployment for you then? I mean, Kuwait and then now Baghdad. How long were you over there for?
I can't remember how long total. I want to say we were in Iraq that first initial push, somewhere between 6 and 7 months
Okay.
after
All
we
right.
after we broke the berm. We weren't there too long, but I mean, we were in Baghdad for a little bit, and then they tasked us again, and we ended up going out to Fallujah. So we were in Fallujah, out on the outskirts of Fallujah, for the remainder of our time there in Iraq, um, for that first, OIF-1. So I just remember the first time I drove through Fallujah was weird. And oh my God, it was just, you could just see the people just staring, making holes in your chest with their eyes. It was just kind of, um It was a very hostile environment, I guess. Oh, we didn't have to, do anything too crazy, but we were just kind of there and, supporting the mission of I guess they were trying to go through Fallujah, and we were just there to support the units that needed it. Um, but I did a lot of stuff in Fallujah, and that was just kind of, repetitive. And then a few run and gun missions with Sergeant First Class every time he'd come back and, hey, I need a gunner, and he'd pick me up. So that's
How
where I got.
long how long did it take from them to stop asking you questions to see if you had the grit and the knowledge to be like, "Hey, man, let's go"? I mean, was it 1 trip, 2 trips,
I
or
would say by the second trip, it was just kind of it stopped.
they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
Juan's good to go. Grab it, grab Juan in his 50. Let's roll, huh?"
yeah, he was a great guy. Really good, solid sergeant first class, and I didn't mind doing it. It got me out of the area that we were at. We were sleeping out of like a hangar, and I was like, I don't want to be in this hangar all day. So when we were in Baghdad, when we were in the airport, a buddy of mine, my roommate, Polly, we actually pieced together a swamp cooler. We found a few swamp coolers there in that schoolhouse, and we ended
Hell yeah.
up piecing it together and making it work. And we we hooked it to the front of our tool van and literally just mounted it on the roof and drove it like that to Fallujah. So we had a coolish area to kind of hang out in. So when I wasn't in the hangar, it was literally just there in that tool truck. Yeah,
So,
but
what
most
was that how were you communicating with your family back home at the time? Were the phone calls? Are you sending emails or
we
what?
had we had a sat phone, um, and every once in a while, each section would get X number of time with the sat phone, and you can call home for I want to say it was like 2 or 3 minutes. And it was just a real quick, hey, get through. Hey, I'm doing okay. Um, love you guys. Things suck, and hopefully I'll be home soon. Got to go. Bye.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
wasn't long enough to have a full on conversation, but it was long enough to at least let them know you're okay, still around. So I'm pretty sure my mom was. We say, yeah, I'm pretty sure my mom was shitting bricks. Because it wasn't just me that was out there in Iraq for OIF1, it was also my brother.
Well, yeah, that was gonna be my next question, man. Like, where was your brother Beto in all this? Was he far behind you joining the Marine Corps? Was he right on line with you? I mean, where how
Dude,
was all
so
that
here's
going?
yeah,
And I'm
so
not sure if
here's
we're getting ahead of ourselves because it's still your
no,
first
no.
deployment and then you got a few other deployments back out there too. So I'm just wondering where Beto, your brother, was in this
Yeah,
in this journey right
yeah.
now.
So my brother, he joined up in the Marine Corps after high school as well. I believe he joined when he was 17. My parents had to sign for him. But we were actually on the border of Kuwait together,
Cool.
uh, getting ready to go in. I want to say he went to Ramadi
Mm,
his first push in. So he went through a lot. He's a mortarman. We didn't get to see each other. I tried to talk to my chain of command and see if I could see him. I mean, you think they're not that far from where we're at. We can load up in a Humvee or something and go. But my unit didn't let us do that. His unit didn't let him. Um, there were a couple people we knew that were able to do that, and we're like, well, why can't we? But it's okay. I'd say that first push in, a lot of my worry, or not really worry, but my fear was not seeing my brother again.
mhm.
That was tough, man. Um, because when I left theater, I want to say he was still there.
Okay.
So when he came home, I was pretty ecstatic that he made it back. But we both broke that burn together, man. So it was crazy. It really
Yeah.
is. You think, here we are, two brothers. My dad's only two boys, and we're breaking the berm together, going into Iraq. So, um, yeah, my mom she was worried, but we made it
Of
home.
course. Fantastic. So you end up that first deployment. You guys are back home. Uh, Bravo Company is back in the United States. Uh, what was that like for you, man? Were you glad to be out, or did you feel like you needed to be back there, or were you wondering what was next for you
It
in
was kind of
Bravo?
half and half, man. Like I said, my first initial enlistment was 3 years. So by the time everything had gone on and we were back, I was pretty much getting close to my ETS date. And yeah, I ended up getting married. And my thought was, well, I'm getting married and, maybe I can get out. She can move to California with me and she didn't have much time left in either. And we were both pretty happy.
So you married a fellow Army
Yeah.
service
Yeah.
member there? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. She was in my unit and
Okay.
she's Alpha Company. She was NBC. We were talking about starting a life, everything. I was going to get out, go back home. And I think she was almost getting close to it. And then the orders came down
Mm,
and the unit got kind of locked in. So she was gonna have to go on another. I ended up getting out. I ended up BTSing. I left the regular army and I went to the National Guard for
okay.
maybe 10 months. So I got out. My wife was still in, and she's getting ready to go to Iraq, and I was back in California at the time with the field artillery unit that I got assigned to. It was nice going back home because there was a National Guard armory in my hometown, and it wasn't very far away from where I grew up. So they put me on. It wasn't AGR, but I was active status, working with the recruiters since I went to school there. Unit ended up going to Cuba at Guantanamo, and they let me stay behind because I just came back from deployment. Um, I realized it's not where I wanted to be and joined back up. So I went back regular army. And when I did, I ended up going right back to the same unit. Um, and I don't,
Did those guys bust your balls at all coming back?
no, no, not even. I mean, a lot of them were excited to see me. Um, my second tour that I went on, they were already deployed when I got back to Fort Stewart. I went through some kind of training. It was like a 2-week training, and then they reassigned me to Bravo Company 26 FSB at the time. I remember getting back in Iraq, and my first sergeant Jordan, his face lit up and he shook my hand. He's like, Palacios, he's like, if I had a whole company of you, I'd be squared away. And I just started laughing. I was like, whatever, first sergeant, but he was a good guy. And I ended up going to Alpha Company maintenance team with Sergeant Howison back then, but then he ended up going warrant later. So later became Chief Howison. Um, but I was with the Alpha maintenance team for a little bit. And then I got tasked to be the battalion commander's driver. So I went to the PSD. Um, and that's where my journey started with, the PSD and top flight, the security platoon.
Okay.
So a lot of my buddies that I knew from when I was in that first deployment with them and a few new faces went and started up the convoy platoon, the convoy security platoon. So
So, second deployment, you've linked back up with your old unit after doing some time in the National Guard, and you are now part of a PSD team, and you're rolling around. And what's up? What are you doing?
yeah, man, a whole new plethora of things, I guess. Really excited to be back, man. A lot of the guys that I knew are there and meeting new friends. I mean, the culture was kind of perfect. It was a
Awesome.
bunch of, I guess we were just a pish pot of different MOSs, cooks, admin, mechanics, drivers, supply. They just threw everybody in one section and said, "Hey, you can take." And it was kind of like everyone that they didn't want to keep in their unit. They were just like, "Man, just send this guy. We don't need him."
Ah,
Or we we were characters to say the least. But when I got to the PSD, I was a little nervous. I was going to be driving the battalion commander. I mean, here I am, this, young specialist. I'm like, I've never really been around officers. I've always spent my time around NCOs, and now I'm going to be driving around the battalion commander in combat. So I'm like, what do I got to do now? But being a part of the PSD, we ran a lot of different missions with Top Flight, which was a security platoon. So I got a lot of good practice driving. And when I say practice, I mean, that was back in the day when if you needed to move somebody, you can move, vehicles, just whatever. You were just, you had to make way. So I got to learn a lot of different, I guess, better forms of defensive driving. And, it was nice, man. But being a part of the security platoon, as far as the PSD goes, it was it was kind of awesome, man. One of my buddies, Sergeant Secor, was my gunner, and I was his driver. So we knew each other from before, and we went to OIF1 together. So it was nice being there. A lot of my buddies from the motor pool, a few of them were there. It was awesome, man, to be a part of the same unit, but doing something completely different that hadn't been done before.
Yeah, within that unit, right?
Yeah, and it's like, you're not combat arms, but you're getting to go out on mission. You're getting to, drive amongst the roads. You're securing convoys and you're taking them from point A to point B, or you're bringing personnel back and forth. I mean, there's that song, what is it, The Irish Road? I can't remember what it is exactly, but Route Irish is one of the hottest routes that was in that Baghdad area, and we would travel down Irish and Brewers all the time, like, multiple times a day, to take people to and from the green zone. Um, so we covered a lot of ground. We delivered a lot of things. We escorted around KBR quite a bit. Yeah, we did a lot of different stuff supporting the other units that needed, you know, whatever they needed, fuel, water, food, supplies. Um, and we were securing our own convoys to do that so that the combat arms guys could really maintain their area and focus on their mission. So
Yeah. Now, when you were part of this team driving around the battalion commander, did your daily routine as a mechanic end, and they had a whole different skill set that you were practicing on a daily basis as far as driving and shooting, driving and communicating, or were you still turning wrenches?
no, so when we got to the platoon, it was kind of, we focused solely on convoy operations. Now, any 10 level stuff or any quick part change outs we could do ourselves, but we actually had a maintenance team that we would take our vehicles to,
Okay.
and we'd literally drive to the motor pool and they'd take care of us. Our up armor back then was S&R, the welding shop guys getting steel and, putting steel in the vehicles, or when the cupola, the first series of the cupola, like the gunner's cages came out, they would install them for us on our vehicles.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool not having to do it on our own, because we had to focus on a different mission.
Okay.
But if push came to shove, we were able to do what we had to do to get the vehicle running. So
Yeah, handle your own shit, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So where this whole time now, you guys are going up and down Route Irish, you guys are obviously taking and getting involved with some engagements. Did you have a sense of comfort in all of that? Did you have a sense of peace, even though you were rolling through this and obviously in a very dangerous environment? Did you have any kind of sense of comfort or peace at all while this was happening?
I would say yes at first. Um, it was good to be back. It was good to be amongst everyone that just didn't care. I'm saying, when I say that they didn't care, they just, our demeanor, our personalities all fit very well together, because we didn't care about all the little stupid nuances. We cared about the big stuff. Hey, if something pops off, we're here. But everything else was just fun. Everything else was, hey, smoking and joking. One minute, Chambers is acting normal. The next minute, he's wearing a dress, running around, making everybody laugh because it's hot. It's just a random things would happen and just occur that made us grow together as a group, but it made us fight harder together. So there was a sense of
Cool.
peace when I was around everyone and we weren't on the road. But when we were on the road, it was work. There was no play. I mean, it was what we were doing. And
Yeah.
it's surprising how you can flip that switch real quick from play to work.
It's amazing. Now you said, prior to this, you were just hanging out with NCOs. Now you're driving around a battalion commander. Did you start developing a better sense of what was happening and why? Because now you're part of conversations, you're part of radio traffic, and you're have a little bit more of a better intimate look at the overall picture of things. Did you feel better about what you guys were doing?
I would say yes and no. It's just kind of, and really because the radio traffic that was coming through was just from us and the battle spaces that you were going through. Whenever my battalion commander went somewhere, he would go off and do his thing and he'd leave us behind. So it wasn't like
Mm,
I was with him at his meetings or, you know, kind of there every bit. I mean, I got to know him more on a personal level because we created that relationship. You're down in the truck and you're going through Iraq. It's hot. You're gonna talk about something. Back then, we didn't have our headsets yet to where you can speak internally. It was just those 3M earplugs, or whatever earplugs you wanted to wear, or if not. But you know, I I started to get a sense of what we were doing while we were doing it, not necessarily speaking to the commander or any higher ups. It was just kind of you would see what we were securing, where we were moving things back and forth from different patrol bases or smaller fobs or cobs. I mean, there was a lot of different things that kind of took place that helped you appreciate what you were doing, and it made you realize that you weren't just sitting around. You're actually like out there doing something, and you were doing something that you weren't used to or something that you weren't, you didn't sign up to do and wasn't
yeah.
originally a part of your job description.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned that you guys had some operational support with getting steel plating welded up. Were the vehicle-borne IEDs a threat at this time yet, or no? Was it just
So
still
the IEDs,
small gunfire and RPGs, that type of thing?
you had small arms, you had RPGs, but IEDs came pretty quickly. I feel like they came pretty fast. Tactics were, they started to know what we were doing, how we rolled down the road. Hey, we learned, 50 meters between each vehicle, keep up with the guy in front of you, don't fall back. And all of a sudden they're reading into our structures, hey, they're this far apart. Let's go ahead and put something here and here. And then, we had to start changing everything, hey, now it's, between 50 to 75 meters distance. That's early on. I want to say that's when the rhino boxes, the rhinos that fall out in the front end of the vehicle, those hot boxes with the glow plugs and they just burn hot. I mean, they were using IR devices to set off
Mm,
explosives. And I want to say early on in OIF3 or around that time, they started to show up with EFPs, and
okay.
those were bad, man.
Yeah, devastating.
So yeah, it's kind of weird.
Mm. All right, so that's second deployment for you, driving around, being part of this team. Was the entire deployment that for you, or did they take away from that and put you somewhere else, or what?
No, the remainder of that deployment was just doing that, just PSD and convoy operations, being a part of the security platoon. Um, that deployment was the first time, as the first time and we didn't come home with it.
Was it, is that something you want to get more into, man, or no?
Yeah, no, that's fine, man. I mean, that's how that's how you keep them alive, right?
Yeah, that's it,
That's how
brother.
you,
We could talk
yeah.
about them. We can let them, this is preserving your legacy, Juan. And then as well, we can absolutely use this as an opportunity to share some light and share some stories about some of those brothers, man. So please, I mean, if you're up for it, man, let's do it.
And then, you know, it's not just it's not just my legacy, man. It's it's all those that put everything together, you know, the ones that kept me safe, the ones that brought me home, you know, everybody that I got the honor and the privilege to serve with. It's theirs too, because without him I wouldn't be here today.
Mm,
But that deployment, my second deployment, yeah, in November, uh so my November 4th is my little sister's birthday. And it's generally always been a happy day for me. Um, you know, get to call my sister and wish her a happy birthday. November 4th is that was the first time that I lost. He's Captain Gerbis was our platoon leader, and Specialist Yancey was one of my really good friends, his driver. And I wasn't on mission that day. I was with my roommate, Sergeant Lewis Mason, and he and I were down that day, but we were QRF just in case anything happened. Those guys, the night prior to that mission happening, I was with Zach Palmer, Specialist Palmer, who is he's a medic, but he was Captain Gervis's driver at the time. And I was hanging out with him. We were watching, I believe it was Viva La Bam. That was a big, you know, series of burnt CDs in Iraq. But Captain Gerbis came in, said he wasn't feeling well, kind of messed with Zach a little bit, said go to bed because we got a long day tomorrow. And my room bed, they went and did their thing. The next morning, my roommate, Sergeant Lewis, or well, was Specialist Lewis back then, but Lewis and I get waking up, and they tell us, "Hey, you guys need to gear up. One of the squads got hit." So we're like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Hey, listen, just get your gear. You guys got to go. Like it's bad." So we get geared up, we get in our trucks, and we go meet our staging area, and our company commander, Alpha Company's commander, I believe it was Captain Mattis back then, came up and he's got his gear with him. He's saying he's going to roll with us. But he puts out the info that Captain Gerbis had been killed. Um,
mm,
there was another unit coming down the route. I believe they loaded he and Yancey up into the vehicles and got them to the TMC there at Rustamaya. Um, but Captain Gerbis passed away at the TMC for, I'm sure it was blood loss. He lost his legs. And Yancey took shrapnel, I believe, to his head, and he lost his left arm, or it was pretty badly mangled at that point. Some of the other guys that were in the truck were also pretty bad. So they were coming back from BIOP. They were running out to BIOP, and they came back down in the intersection of Irish and Brewers is where they got hit on the off-ramp. Vehicle got hit first. The second vehicle started to, you know, I don't know if they started to back up or if they just held their position or slowly went forward. I'm not sure. But then the second ID went off, and that's the one that
mm,
got Captain Gerbis. So, you know, we heard of him passing that day. We ended up securing the site of where it happened. We were there to pick up all the pieces, I guess. Just secure the vehicles, get them loaded up and get out of the area. And just, you know, it's weird, man, you know, because you ask, you know, did I feel a sense of peace? Felt so much peace being with those guys, and I felt not invincible, but I felt like we were okay, we were doing good things, and the reality of life sets in that you're still in a very hostile environment and it could happen to anybody. Like, yeah, you might be able to prevent it by seeing something odd that you see every single day that just seems out of place, but there's no guarantee that um you can look at something and say, hey, that looks odd, but it could just be something to stop you and slow you down in a separate area so that you can get blown up there. um Losing those guys was hard. It was my first time, like, realizing that people that I'm serving with, people that I'm you know going to the DFAC with, or coming up with the gayest of jokes. Like, there's just so much stuff that it could just be gone in a matter of
Yeah.
seconds.
And a flash, right?
Yancey, I used to see him at the motor pool all the time before I got out. I went to the National Guard. I used to do a lot of magic tricks, and I'd always tell him to do a magic trick, and he'd just go, "Now you see me, now you don't." It was just he's just a genuine soul, man, a good-hearted person, and now he's gone. Um, and then Captain Gervis he's a West Point grad, and just he played rugby, and just a solid dude. I remember sitting around the day room with his driver Palmer and Sergeant Klein, and we'd be playing Risk, that board game Risk, and Zach used to Sergeant Palmer, he would grab the little figurines from Captain Gervis whenever he'd get up, and he'd start biting the heads off of them. So he had a bunch of little dudes with no heads, and it was just funny. It's just something he did. And after that happened, after he was gone, we didn't play Risk anymore.
Mm.
We started a bonfire and didn't put it out until we left, basically. And we still continued doing our missions when we needed to. We still continued doing our, everything, but it was there's an emptiness, there's a hole. It's always going to be there. You don't realize that these guys and these girls that you're serving next to are going to be closer than your blood family. You're willing to you're willing to put your life on the line for each and every one of them as they are for you. You know, Palmer, man, Zach was messed up, man. He broke his hip, his wrist. I mean, he got banged up pretty fucking bad, took a lot of shrapnel, and he still, with every ounce of his being, was able to put tourniquets on Cap Gervis's legs. The rest of the convoy was doing what they could do. Sergeant First Class Aiton was out there doing stuff. Specialist Had was out there. I mean, Sergeant Michelle, who was in the lead gun truck, he was providing first aid, and he said it just clicked. It just happened. He just started doing it, and all these guys, every single one of them, and the girls that we were with were warriors, man. And when push came to shove, they made it happen. Even though we lost Kevin Gerbison, even though we lost Yancey, like, they were at least able to find command and control and make sure everybody else made it back.
Mm.
It's hard, dude. Um, it was empty, and that was near the end of our deployment. That was near the time we had to leave, and that happened. And all the stuff we were doing, it was just we weren't supposed to be doing, but we were doing it. When I left Iraq my second time, I went to the day room and I grabbed that game of Risk, and I took those guys, those figurines for Cap Gervis, and I put some tape around and I put them in my ruck. Carried them for years. And I want to say it was when Sergeant First Class Aiton passed away. He was riding his motorcycle and got hit. a few years back. Myself, Michael Chambers, David Hammond, and Zach Palmer, all three of us, all four of us, went to his funeral, and I've been carrying these for years, so I can give them to you. It's crazy, man. You know, it really is. But I think about those guys every day, dude. Especially, being where I'm at, doing what we're doing here now. I think about everybody that I lost in combat and outside of combat. It's not easy. The pain's still very real, and it's numbing. But I'm glad I can still feel it because it lets me know I'm still alive. It lets
Yeah.
me know that I still care, and you know, hopefully it'll let somebody else know that it's okay to be a little vulnerable and to feel. Can't always keep it in, man. Um, but
You
I'm
know,
a
and I don't know, listening to you and listen to other people, I think that there's a beauty in that tragedy, you know, and I think the beauty is, to me, is not only do we get to remember, not only do we get to preserve, but the impact that those men and women have had on your life to get you to where you're at today. I think, would you say that it's forged you to be better daily in order to carry on a legacy that they would be proud of?
now, yes. Before I, went through everything after I got out, it was kind of a day-to-day thing, just trying to survive. But the last 6 years of my life have been changed dramatically, and um, I remember what they were to me and what we did, and it pushes me even more to get out of my comfort zone to say that I'm not just me, I'm so much more. And if I was just a mechanic back then, why was I doing so much more? There was something that somebody seen and said, "Hey, let's do this." And all of a sudden we ended up doing things that we never thought we'd do as support. And now I look at it the same way. If I'm just me, yeah, I know a lot of people, and to be able to share a little bit, even if it changes one, two, or three people, how many people can they change and help along the way, So um you constantly gotta think about it that way and keep going, man. I mean, but at the same time, I wanna live a good life, but I wanna live a good life that they've allowed me to live, like that
Mm.
they sacrificed their lives, man, and I don't wanna squander my time that I have left by just falling in a hole and staying there. I'd rather do everything that I can and share their names and share, their sacrifices and everybody's that I've been around to help.
You know,
So
let me ask you about that. Was okay, because obviously you survived a few more deployments. Obviously, you did a lot more, and then you get out of the you get out of the army, and I think you had told me that you got out in 2011, right? So you did a little bit more than a decade. So what was there with you? And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but maybe you could take me back a little bit. You made the decision to get out of the army. You had some traumatic experiences. You lost some people who you truly admired and that you loved. Was there something from the time that you got out of the army into a certain time in there that something clicked or something happened where you decided, like, all right, I've had enough keeping this in. I need to get out there. I need to talk about this stuff? Or was it something that you knew immediately after experiencing it, that it was something that you had to deal with?
no, it was a prolonged thing. It wasn't I think it was more of me trying to fit in the civilian sector, saying that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. I can make it. But those small subtleties that I started to notice, like my irritability, just being angry, or I was
Mm.
annoyed by people pretty quick. If it was just my standard of saying, "Hey, dude, this is unsafe. Like, why are you doing it?" And my inability to speak to people in a polite way or tactful way, and saying, "Hey, um, there's a better way to do this." But um, I didn't see it right away. I think I struggled with it for quite a while. I got out in 2011. I went through a second divorce, which, tossed a wrench in everything. Um, then I didn't really feel like I mattered. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that happened in there that really made me stay down and dirty, and kind of drown myself in booze a little more. I started drinking heavily between my second and third. Continued on when I got out. So between the numbing or the numbness and the meds once I got attached to the VA, um, it really pushed me down a hole I didn't want to be in. And it took me a long time. It took a lot of struggles. I had a lot of goods in there, and that's what kept me up
Mm.
long enough to 7 years ago when I met my fiance that she really helped turn me around. And it wasn't that she said, "Hey, I'm here to fix you," or "I'm here to help you." It was just, "Hey, I like you, and let's get through this together." It wasn't an individual
Awesome.
thing anymore. So it drove me to want to care for myself. And in that, it was my son and my brother who pushed me to really get the help too, because they could see it. I wasn't willing to see it. I couldn't see it. And, um, a good buddy of mine, Tim Ashley, is a Desert Storm veteran. Great dude. He pulled me aside. We were in the golf industry together, and he told me, he's like, "Man, Sarge, you're just bitter. You're a bitter person." And I took personal offense to that because I didn't realize that I was bitter. Um, and it's blinding because you don't really know what you're doing when you're so drowned out and just not wanting to function properly. You just want to numb out everything, any information that comes. I'd rather read blurred lines than read something clearly.
Mm.
Um, there was a lot in there, but no, I didn't see it right away. It took a long time for me to fight through it.
So you've got a new fiance, and she says, "We're going to make it through this." You have this Desert Storm veteran who called you bitter, and then who's on your side. What was the transition into getting better? Did you explore? I mean, you said you went with the VA. You and I had some personal discussions about that prior. But what was the where am I going with this one? You got your fiance, you got this Desert Storm vet. You have a group of people that are on your side, and then now you know that you need to get better. You need to start tackling some of these things. So what was that road like for you? What I mean, did you bounce around VA and other people? Did you bounce around to the VA yourself? What was it until you finally kind of got kicked into something?
There was a point where I didn't have a place to live. I lived in my truck,
Mm.
sneak into the building and take showers in the men's locker room before work started. And I was there one night. I would get done with work. I'd go to the bar and I'd drink. Then I'd drive back just like a dumbass. Um, and one night I was laying down and just I was contemplating the thought of just not being here anymore. And I had the capabilities because my center console was right there. So instead of doing that, I just talked to JR about this last week. I started saying a prayer. I wasn't praying for myself. I was praying. I was praying for my family, for my mom, praying for my brother and my sister, and I was praying for my son. And I was asking God to just help give them peace, help give them, direction and guidance and let them know it's not their fault. I was praying for my son. Here in the low country, you get this is called heat lightning or heat thunder. I'm not sure what it is. It's just flashes of, and that started to happen, and it kind of just like a flicker. And I know there's people that wear those shirts that say, "Hey, if you were looking for a reason, this is it." Um, you know, if you're looking for a reason to hang around, this is it. Or if you were looking for a sign, that was my sign. That flash. I got out of my truck and I broke down, and was in 2017, late 2017.
Mm.
That kind of took me out of a funk a little bit, but I fell back into that funk. I decided that I wanted to join the military again. I wanted to get back into shape, and I wanted to volunteer to go overseas to Afghanistan so I wouldn't come home. Um, so I shifted focus from ending my own life to, well, if I don't do it, somebody else can. And my buddy Chris and his girlfriend Nikki let me. She had asked me if I'd play on the co-ed softball team with her and her friend that she worked at Beaufort Memorial. I said, I didn't really want to. I was gonna leave, and she's like, "Look, stay a few months, get in shape, then you can leave." So I was like, "All right, I'll play the softball team with you." And that's when I met Kayla. I met her sister Allie and Kayla at the batting cages here. And I shook Kayla's hand, and it's just one of those feelings. I was like, it was just I was drawn to her. Just I knew I wanted her in my life, but I didn't know what capacity. I just knew that I needed to be here right now. And that was kind of the second moment that, it was a sign, I guess, for me to say, hey, take a step back, take a breather, because, I wanted to leave, and I didn't want to end my own life, so I was going to let them do it for me. And at least this way, if it happened, then my son could, be taken care of. My family would be okay, and they wouldn't have to deal with, the pain of me, killing myself. They would
Mm.
just, they'd still deal with pain, but it wouldn't be, I didn't think it would be that bad as opposed to, me taking my own life. So either way, it's bad because I was very reckless. I didn't care about my own life, and I didn't care about anybody else that was around me. So I just kind of fell. And when things started to slowly kind of get better, I woke
Now,
up more and more.
this isn't a challenge, but I don't know if you're walking down this path where you want to end your life, right? You don't want to put the guilt on your family for it. So you decide you're contemplating rejoining the military so you can end up in Afghanistan and hopefully someone will take your life for you. But in the same sentence of you saying, I didn't care about anyone else around me, I think you still did because you didn't want to personally leave that on them and you wanted to find a different avenue so they wouldn't have that on them. So I kind of get the sense, and I'm no psychiatrist, no shrink or anything, but by any means, but I just think that, I mean, you did care for them, right? Because if you didn't, you would have ended your own life in a car.
And I didn't see it. I didn't really feel that. I was on different things. I was drinking, I was on different meds, and at the time, I once again, my buddy Tim, he's a rock in my life, man. Like, this dude is just such a solid person for me. Um, I had made a comment to him. We were out playing golf one day and said, now I kind of know why people kill themselves, because I just don't feel anything. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, Sarge, are you okay? And I call him Staff because he was a staff sergeant. And I'm like, "Yeah, staff, I'm good." I said, "I just don't care. I don't have any emotions. I just don't feel anything." I'm like, "I can go one way or the other and just not really care." I was so drowning. I was just my emotions, everything was just drowned out. Um, so, you know, I guess when you pointed out, I guess there was some care in there, but I don't really think I thought of it that way. I was more or less just thinking of sparing them the idea that I was alone and in a truck in a parking lot and just didn't feel like I had anybody. I didn't feel like even when I had people around me, I didn't feel like I had any. It was always just I felt alone. I didn't really feel like I mattered to anyone. I didn't matter to myself. And I think that's when I started meeting different people in my life, and there's a lot of other things that happen in between there, but when I cut out a lot of the toxicity, I started to see that it was okay to care for myself like other people cared for me, or the care that they were showing me. It was okay for that to like break the barrier, and it was
Mm,
okay for me to care for myself. Um, and I would say that when that all kind of changed and turned around was when I met Kayla, turned around JR and those guys. So yeah, it wasn't something that I found immediately. I literally spiraled and fell to the bottom a lot every day, it seemed like. Um, and I'd get back up and then I'd fall again. But now I look at it differently. If I fall now, I reach out. I don't have I don't have to feel alone anymore. Go getters, I have my, 03 guys who, I can reach out to. Hell man, I can reach out to you and we don't know each other than just that week at the concert. Um, but I trust you with my life and I trust you with
mm,
with my safety because I know if without a doubt I can't reach anybody, I can reach you and I can go to the
fuck
next
yeah.
person.
Yep.
I didn't know I had that before. So it's nice having that peace of mind and knowing that even though I haven't served with any of you guys, we all still continually serve each other and our bond is tighter than anything, and it's amazing, man. It
No one's
truly is.
fucking getting through it, I'll tell you that much.
Nope, nope. And it's like any of you guys, it's I'd do anything for all of you.
It's a wonderful brotherhood, man. And one thing I want to talk about is you mentioned hooking up with Kayla, meeting her, and then you mentioned JR. And for those of us who've been following the Opfob series on the podcast, and those of us that have had the pleasure of having him in our life, let's talk about that first meeting with JR, man. What transpired? How did you hook up with him? And what happened in order to for his arms to get wrapped around you?
Man, Kayla and I were dating for maybe 5, 6 months at the time, about something like that. Actually, I don't even know how long we were dating. Um, I just know that there was a Marine guy who was running a lawn care business, and he used to cut her yard. He would come cut the grass there, and then at her neighbor's house. And one day came outside and he's cutting the neighbor's yard, and I was like, "Hey, man," I was like, "She's got a man now, so you stay on that side. Don't even come over here and cut this grass."
Keep your
And
shirt
he
on.
just and we started laughing at each other, and um, we talked a bit, and he actually heard about the fob before I did, and he told me about it. So we ended up going out there on a Saturday, and there's maybe 8 people out there, including the two of us. I met another gentleman there who said, the founder, JR, he was going to be out here sooner or soon. And then this black GMC truck pulls in. It's, slightly lifted. It's got this, Blackwater license plate on it on the front end. And I'm like, all right, and here comes JR walking out. I introduce myself. He comes up and says, what's up? And we start talking. Pretty much it, man, really. I met him. I looked at him and I was just like, dude, this guy's a pretty solid dude. He's a pretty square guy. And, I'd like to get to know him a little more. But we started talking about deployments. And for a short period of time, I don't even think it was that long, but for a short period of time, we were sharing the same dirt together, and not even knowing. He's a Marine and I'm Army, and we're crossing paths. Um, so he asked me, a few more questions after that. We did some shooting, and I took a tour around the property. It was kind of cool. But then he calls me like the next day. I gave him my phone number, and he called me like the next day and asked me if I could come and install a toilet and a vanity and a mirror inside this little small rinky-dink bathroom we had in the corner of the barn. And I was like, sure. So, I was joking about how Kayla had asked me if I could come be her handyman and change out the doors or the doorknobs in her house. And I was like, yeah, I can change that out. And I said, it's funny how, some of the people that have changed my life and that I care about the most have all asked me to be their handyman. And he just started, he just started laughing. But the fact that he and I were able to bust each other's balls like that quick, and then just start hanging out, man. It was nice to know that I had a brother that was going through, some similar things I was, that was in a similar theater. It's different, man. I have nothing but respect for those that have served before me, and they've had their different feelings and whatnot. But for me, GWOT was something else, man. It was different, and the guys that I meet that were part of GWOT is like, we all share a commonality, and I love each and every one of them. Um, and he was one of those guys that I got to meet up first, that was, in some of the places I was, that I could relate to. So,
Mm.
it felt nice having a person that was there. The military's so big, but yet it's so small, and the world is gigantic. And here I am in Ridgeland, South Carolina, with a dude that there when I was. And it's just incredible. What are the odds? What are the chances? And something we say at the FOB all the time is there are no coincidences. And there it was. And the rest is history, man.
Yeah. What are you it's a special place down there, man, filled with very special people. What have you look back and you've got this service of you got the story, you've got this service where you're from Lodi, California, you go out to to South Carolina, Georgia, you've got multiple combat deployments, you've had some experiences that sent you to some very dark places. And then you've got Kayla, you got JR, you got the fob. What is important to you now with all of that? With with everything that you've taken on and everything that you've taken in, with everything that you've experienced, the good, the bad, the loss, the service, Kayla, JR, the fob. What are you doing with all of it now?
Then now, man, I mean, my second deployment was up. It got hard. I dealt with a lot of different things, and you met my brother. He was dealing with his own stuff, and a part of me going through some of my struggles was worrying about him, if he was going to be okay between,
Mm.
deployments, because I was in, I had to go back to Iraq two more times after my second tour. And there's a lot in there that happened that day. But even through going through my third deployment, my fourth deployment, like, those got a little more harder. I mean, they got harder for me. My roles and responsibilities um got greater, and everything I went through, I don't have any regrets. The only thing that I'd change is bringing everybody home. Everything that I went through, all those hard days, all those good days, just everything that was in between that made me who I am today is something that it's hard to say that I'm proud of, but I'm okay that I'm here. Not necessarily proud of myself. Like I'm happy I'm here. I'm gaining confidence in life. I'm proud of those moments that defined, think of how I could say this. Miss I miss my brethren, and I know that, the big man upstairs has plans for all of us. And if that means I have to go through all of that all over again to be here where I am today to share anything and to help others at least feel that they can open up and share, then I'll go through all of it all over again every single time.
Mm.
Believe that you don't have to keep everything in. You can let some of it out and you can let it out slowly. But the more you hold it in, it's gonna make things a lot worse. It's almost like taking that pill that the VA gives you. You start to feel numb because you're just getting engulfed in everything. You're not wanting to let things go. And the more you hold on, the more you just drown. So where I'm at now in life, I'm thankful to be here. I'm proud of my service. But I'm even more proud of the fact that I got to work and serve and be next to giants, man. I mean, everyone that I serve with that brought me home, like they are the ones that they're my freaking heroes, and my brothers that didn't make it back home, they're gods to me, man. All I can do is live each day the best I can and hope that someone sees that you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have everything in the world. I'm rich right now for just being alive. I'm rich right now just for having the
Fuck
people
yeah.
I have in life. I mean, there's so much more to wealth and health in life than actual wealth, and I'm wealthy because I have people around me that are willing to pour their good into my life, and I'm willing to pour it right back into somebody else's. So I'm thankful for where I am, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm going to continue to push that forward because if nobody does, I mean, you and I know it best. We're the ones who take care of each other. And everyone else up top, they say, yeah, we got to care for our veterans. It's more of a political thing. It's more of a, hey, here's your asterisk, and yeah, that guy cares about veterans or whatever. It's more the action that we take, not just the words that we put out. So, yeah, man, it's my life has changed tremendously in a positive way, and
Awesome.
I have my days where I'm up, and I have them where I'm down. Tribe, I have a community that I can reach out to, and I have my core people that are going to keep me afloat. Struggles are there, man. I mean, they come and go. I still can't sleep well at night. I still get dizzy when I walk. Um, my head hurts all the damn time. Um, Hell, it was like that in Iraq. My medics, Dorn and Moreno used to argue about who's gonna get to shoot me up with Toradol on my butt cheek. Like, I'd used to be on missions and be hurting, but I'd still function because I knew I had a job to do. And I'm still gonna function now because I know I have something to do. I have lives to change and people to be around to share everything with. And if I don't do it, you know, I think I'm a little different type of a person. I mean, I can go, you know, if you gave me something to do, I'd get it done right away. I think I'm a little more softer around the edges to where people can say, "Hey, man, maybe I can talk to this guy a little bit more than I can talk to Grumpy over there." So we're all in it together, man. It's for the best. It's for the better of not just right now, but for the future of veterans and law enforcement and first responders. You know, it's what's happening now at Opfob is something that's going to stand the test of time,
Yeah.
and it's going to let people know that they're okay and it's okay, and it's going to let their families know that they're welcome and they're okay too. That there's no gloves, no judges, no nothing. It's just, hey, you show up, you need us, we have you. You know, we've got your six, and it's just it's so much more than just a place, man.
You know, I'm glad you said that because it is absolutely it's X amount of acres that's right there in Ridgeland, South Carolina, right? Obfob wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for the people. And that's what I think is so important all this that I don't feel I could ever stress enough. There's not a single person down there that you know that I met that I know that I continue to learn about and continue to meet and continue to build relationships with. It's an amazing special place, and it's not because of the land, it's not because of the location, because it's the veterans that are there and the volunteers that are there and the people that are there that give a shit. And that is so important, man. It is so absolutely important because, like what you said before about the businesses, oh, yeah, they say they care about veterans, right? Well, fuck your discount because that doesn't help me, right? Yeah, it's nice, but what helps us are guys putting our arms around each other. You know, for you walking through that gate with Kayla and for JR hopping around that pickup truck and putting his arms around you, right? For the guys that were there that were like, hey, man, hold on, you need to meet this guy who kept you there a couple minutes extra longer, right? For our phones to ring at 3 a.m. and no one's having a problem with it. You're not calling that business at 3 a.m. You know, you're not calling that person at 3 a.m. who offered you a 10% discount at who fuck whatever store, right? They're not taking care of you, man. It's what the people down there at Opfob are so freaking so special, and there's such a diverse military background, economic background, social background. You know, it's so freaking diverse, but they're all in the same. They're all the same in the fact that they have each other and they have you and they have people out there that have not yet been introduced to the fob, man. You know, so to have guys like you out there, you know, roping people in and, you know, spreading the gospel about it and letting them know that, hey, man, you've tried these places, you've tried the VA, keep going with that, but let me get you introduced you to something else. Let me get you introduced to these other people here, man, because it's, I mean, without you guys, whether it be you or Brady or JR or Jimmy, and I can go on and on and on, and Matt and everyone else, and Mark and Grumpy and Chris and everyone else that, you know, that are associated with it out there. I'll never stop speaking about what a absolute special place it is. It's because of guys like you, man, you know, that are out there taking care of people, you know.
Fob was built on a foundation of great people, man. I mean, you know, every opportunity I get, I will share about Opfob. It doesn't matter, you know. People see my hat. Hey, what is that? You know, oh, it's Operation Patriots fob. It's out in Richland, you know. First responder, military, what? Oh, law enforcement. Hey, you're welcome, dude. You how much is it? It's free. It's a lifetime membership for you. Really? Why? Because you're doing it. It's you, you know, you paid your dues. Like, come on out. It's for you and your family, you know. So this place really it really turned my life around, man. It took
It's awesome.
service and gave it a different meaning. So I'm still continuing to serve in my own capacity, but also spread the word of what we're doing and be a part of something that's going to change lives. You know, JR is one of my best friends, man. And so is Jimmy. So is a lot of those guys out there, like Grumpy. Grumpy, I look at him, lost an uncle, my tío Toño, back in the day to pancreatic cancer. And you know, every time I come back from deployment, he would always send me text messages, hey mijo, I'm proud of you. Welcome home. You know, I love you. You know, you're doing great things. And his personality is what Grumpy is. And I look at Grumpy as if he's my, you know, not just my brother in arms, but he's very similar to my uncle, man. And I see that in a lot of people that are out there. They have correlations for me in my life, and it's just amazing the amount of people that I get to see come out and enjoy what I get to enjoy, you know? They get to see the same thing, they had to have the same feeling, if not more, you know? I can talk about the fob all day, but when you go through those gates, it's something different. It's not the same, like, words aren't enough. When you get out there and you tour the property and you actually set foot on ground and see what's being done there, you're quick to say, "How can I help? What can I do? How can I volunteer?" And it's an amazing thing, man. It truly is for all of us, and I'm glad that it's here. It's what I needed in my life without knowing I needed it, you know?
Mm.
Continue to spread the word as much as I can. I know JR and Jimmy are the same way. They're, each and every one of us, we all talk about the fob. We all want it to succeed. We all want it to change lives because, we're done having those hard days where we get that phone call and I want to get a phone call because I know we made it to the very end, not because it was cut short.
Yeah.
So, I'd rather grow old and watch my buddies go out because, we're 90, 100 years old down the road trying to see who's going to be the last one standing. You know, that's how I want to go. And the fob has helped me to find that in my life, to want to be very end and change as much as I can for, help change. So,
I am absolutely thrilled, Juan, that you're with us. I love you, man.
too, brother.
I can't. I think the world's a better place with you in it, man. I really mean that, and I am thrilled. I'm thankful that you're here with us. So I want you to keep pushing. I want you to keep, and I don't have to tell you this, man. I guess it's just something that I feel like I need to tell you, man. But I want you to keep pushing. I want you to keep spreading the word. I want you to keep putting your arms around people, man. Because I don't believe in the whole, oh, if it only saves one. No, man, we got more to give, right? We got more we can do. We've got more people that we can help and get the word out to. So keep at it, man. Keep at it.
And brother.
So what do you think, man? Anything else you want to wrap about?
So you want to talk about my second and last, or my third and last deployment, but
Okay, yeah, yeah, let's do that, man. We did skip a little bit, man. So let's
no,
talk
it's
about
okay.
that.
My third deployment, I became a truck commander in the security platoon. So a lot more responsibilities with that. Got different places. That's where we got different roles and responsibilities. Down vehicle aircraft recovery teams. We were QRF still. That was a normal. We also took on another role of being clearance escort. So there was a Navy MOB unit out there that needed security. So one of our squads went out there to be their security. You're trying to avoid IEDs at this point, but now you're looking for them and you're helping those guys dispose of things and keeping routes clear. Day, man, 2, 3, maybe if it was a short mission, a fourth mission a day. Pushing boundaries. Yeah, I went through. I had one of my worst accident was out there on my third deployment. Um, my driver fell asleep behind the wheel of our gun truck. We were the last gun up. So, luckily we were the last because when we hit the checkpoint, um, my safety harness broke, went to the windshield. My driver, I mean, he was asleep and passed out on the wheel, but I was more concerned about my gunner because he was, not tied in or strapped in. I mean, we had that floor buckle. Um, but he took a pretty good hit, but I'm glad he wasn't facing forward because he would have been hurt pretty badly or, possibly might not be alive today. But, that wreck kind of slowed me down a little bit. My knees started to hurt, stuff like that. But my third deployment, I lost my best friend in
Mm.
Sergeant Lewis. He was, yeah, such a great dude, man. He'd walk into a room and you just want to get to know him. Like he could walk into any room and just turn the tides. You know, a lot of stuff happened that deployment. Last time that was really difficult. It's not. There's things that happened that led up to him being put on a mid team instead of being in our platoon, and I'm still angry at my back then battalion commander and sergeant major for pushing him out. When you've been on multiple deployments with somebody in there and in your same platoon, and he was my roommate my second tour. You get close. If you have a great relationship, you secure that bond. But they told me that lost him. I thought they meant like, he was lost, like, we needed to go out and find him. And that wasn't the case. It hurt, dude. Um Kevin Kervis and Yancey hurt. They still do. Having Mason in my life, man, he was somebody I looked up to, dude. Um he was a mentor to me. I shared the story with JR not too long ago about losing Mason, and I was on another mission, and they wanted to talk to me at battalion, and this day was just really weird, cloudy and stuff, weird smells, just everything was just kind of weird. I'll give you like a condensed version of it. Get off a mission, they say they need to see me up at battalion, and I start to bring my cruiser weapon down and trouble. So I got my truck taken away, so they put me in a gunner seat, and putting everything away, and I see a buddy of mine, Sergeant McCluskey, and he's just kind of like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And I'm thinking to myself, what is he doing here? He's not on our fob. He's like way down in South Iraq. So he shouldn't be here, but keeps trying to ask me if he could take my weapon. I'm like, dude, no, I can't. Like, I'm good. Let me get what I got. But I walked into our briefing room and sit me down and tell me that we lost Lewis. We lost Mason, and immediately just no, we got to go out and find him. We got to get the platoon together. We got it. We can go get him. And they said it again, and it kind of set in. Like it just kept repeating. We lost Mason. We lost Lewis. We lost Lewis. I realized what had happened. So one of the longest walks I've had, chewing pitch black, just lost, not knowing if it was real or not. I got back to my chew, and my buddy Fish was in there. Um, he knew Lewis too. We were all on the same deployments together, and he was waiting there with a a go a go plate from the DFAC, and said, "I got you food in case you were hungry," and just gave me a big hug. Um, our boy Hammond came later that night, who was also with us on those deployments, and when you go through a roll call, it's not, man, that is tough. They asked me to speak during his I guess it would be a eulogy, not basically like a memorial there. They asked me to speak on about Mason, and share what Sergeant Lewis was for me in my life. And how do you write down on a sheet of paper what somebody means to you, how the impact that they've made in your life, but not just in your life and other people's lives. I mean, this guy was going out. He was writing home and getting school supplies sent out to him in care packages so he can hand out school supplies and stuffed animals to the Iraqi kids, like while he's out on mission. Like, who does that? A genuine soul does stuff like that. Um, he cared about everybody, and he'd always put everyone before him. His niece, her name is Kayla, and she lost her dad when she was a kid, and Mason took on that role for her as a father and as a big uncle, and he was there for her. And now she's not going to see him again. His mom, his dad, like his whole family. Like, I love this dude, man. I would do anything for this guy. Even to this day, he's still such a mark in my life. He was my hero. He's my mentor. I looked up to him, dude. I never got the opportunity to tell him how much I admired just being in his life and having him be a part of mine. And I'm having to share on this piece of paper what he is. And at the end, basically, I came up with two things. and strength and honor, man. Um, the strength he had and the honor that he put in every aspect of his life. Like it just I don't know if what I said was enough, but I hope it showed his mom and his dad and his family how much he meant to us and how much he meant to me. No, I that was our deployment where we got extended. We're out there for a year, and then they're like, "Guess what? You're staying longer." So 16 months, and you're still in the shit. It's a part of life. No matter what, you're still gonna find dangers everywhere. The guys that were with the EOD team, I mean, they were going on foot patrols with the infantry, kicking in doors, doing things like that that you never expect them to do. Um, we're trained up to do different things, and it's insane, how you can take all of us and put us into a pot and get us to do those. So that deployment was different, man. It was long and it was hard. That's what she said, but it was difficult to recover from losing Mason. Sergeant Lewis is a big part of my life.
How did you feel walking away after you said those few words about him?
I don't know, man. I felt overwhelmed. I felt like he was just gonna pop out of somewhere and be like, haha, gotcha. Um, I still to this day feel and hope that I at least said enough, but I felt like a part of me was missing. I felt like, I just, I lost my best friend. Like I felt like I lost an arm or a leg. I lost a stable platform. I lost somebody that was there for me through, when I went up to salute his podium where his boots and his weapon and his Kevlar were. I ripped the stripes off my chest. I ripped my rank off my chest and set it down, and I gave it to him. 'Cause he was every bit deserving of being an NCO before he passed. And dude was a genuine person and just an outright leader. Felt a lot of anger at people on my side for it. And I'm still upset today, but it's not as much anger as it used to be. It's but you have to you sign up and you have to keep going when you still have time left on your contract. You just kind of got to bite the bullet and keep going. And that's what I did. And my last tour was up in northern Iraq. Everything else before that was Baghdad and the Sunni Triangle, whatever you want to call it, Triangle Death. That's where I spent most of my time. And at my last tour, I'm up in Mosul. It's a completely different area, driving further just to get to another point. It's deployment. I was the assistant convoy commander for PSD, and then later on the convoy commander for that PSD. When my buddy had to go to Germany for a while, we were still running convoy operations, but we did more of the key leader engagement things for stuff. We were helping the Iraqi police and the Iraqi army learn how to move logistics and secure convoys. Um, so we were doing a lot of that stuff, and I was very fortunate my last tour. We got blown up towards the end.
Mm.
That rattled my brain, man. It really, to this day, I'm pretty sure that's why I get dizzy. Get hit, you got to keep going. Um, I remember that day pretty well because the Zach Brown band was out there doing a USO thing in Missoula, and I was excited because I was gonna get to go see their concert. It was, Chicken Fries, one of my favorite songs. Those dudes, and we had some emergency mission that took us out that night. We didn't feel well about it, and there we go. We get hit. So I was very fortunate that nothing happened. Nobody got hurt. I think at the end of that deployment, it was nice to just know that I was coming home with all my soldiers. They had all their fingers and toes, mentally probably not the same, but they had all their lickies and chewies that they came with. So, um, coming back home and bringing them back with something else. But being on the rooftop in Missoula as we're leaving, OIF 7 was something, and then we transitioned to New Dawn where we were coming out. My last night in Iraq, I stood on the roof of my building, and I just kind of looked out over Missoula, and I said a prayer, man, and I basically just started talking to Lewis and Cam Gerbis and Yancey, and I said, I hope this wasn't all for nothing. And I love you guys. And then I walked to the flight line so we can leave. Throughout my time in, God, dude, I grew up in combat. I was in Kuwait before, went to OIF 1, 3, 7, and into New Dawn, man. I count my blessings that I'm here today because, I spent some time out there. They weren't short deployments, but I'm thankful for everyone I served with, for everyone that got me back home, everyone that in my unit, everyone around me, my brigade, just dude, we did things in history, in the history of Iraq, that are just crazy. I think about those moments where you see, World War II vets that go back and they're able to go visit and they spend time with each other, and it's like a whole era of just natural born fucking warriors, dude. And I stop and I wonder, will it ever be that way for us? Are we gonna fly back and see, walk the sands and be like, hey, this is where I used to go? Like, I highly doubt that, man. Um, but I always wonder, like, what it's gonna be like as we start getting older. There's a lot of us that went through GWOT, but if you start looking at it, it really wasn't a lot. It was a lot of rotations between the same divisions, the same, military units that were going out into theater. It's a lot of the same generation that fought those wars and kept them going. Like, I'm thankful, dude. I really am. Um, I miss it. I miss my boys. I miss training my soldiers. I miss just being in, and I can play the what if game all the time. But would I still be here had I stayed in? Um, would I be talking to you? Would I have met JR and those guys? I think at the end of the day, I'm truly blessed. I'm really happy to be a part of what Opfob is. I'm really happy to be a part of what you're becoming, and be a part of everyone's lives that are trying to do something bigger and better and greater than themselves. So, brother, I can't tell you how much I love you, dude, and how much I appreciate you for doing what you're doing. It takes a huge person to go against the grain of who gets the appreciation and say, "Hey, man, it was more than just you." And I think for a lot of us, we look at it that way because I might not have been combat arms or anything great, man, but I served and fought alongside of some of the roughest and toughest people you'll ever meet in your life. And it's kind of like that movie. Um, I can't remember. I think Ben Affleck's in it. Town, or I don't know, where he walks in and he's like, "Hey, man, we got to do some stuff. I don't need you to ask any questions." It's like,
Oh yeah, in
who's
the town, yeah.
whose car are we driving? That's those are the people that I got to know, that I got to serve with, and even though I lost, they're Fort Stewart. They have a Warriors Walk where they planted a tree for every service member who died in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I've got 3 of my buddies' trees there that I go see every year, Memorial Day. And I don't know where I'm going, if I'm going up there or down. But when I go to be judged, man, I hope that I hope they'll at least allow me to say hey and thank you to all those that I got to be with, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be able to share this. So, um, yeah,
It's those people in our lives that we gain, that we lose, right? They all leave a block in our lives, man, a building block. So um those three trees are probably the most special trees on planet Earth to you, right?
yeah,
And thank God there isn't any more of it for you, and thank God no one had to plant one for you, Juan. So this was emotional, this was fantastic. um I can't thank you enough, man. I know it's tough sitting there. I know it's healing for both of us. And I thank you, Juan. I love you, man. And you got my number. Yeah. So I want you to keep doing what you're doing. All right. Call me. Keep putting your arms around people, brother. All right.
will do.
Keep getting them out to the fob. Keep letting them know that there's help out there. You are a testament of what happens when helped people help people, man. So I mean, I love that saying, and you are a testament of that. So keep putting your arms around people, man, because we'd rather have them here than not here.
Brother.
So
I'm
all right.
not gonna I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing, and I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
don't.
let you stop doing what you're doing either, man. You keep it real, bro.
It's an accountability, freaking
Oh yeah,
accountability, and I love it, man. So
damn right.
all right, man. I think we need to get feet dry, man. I think we need to return to base. This was wonderful. I can't wait to talk to you offline. So
Yeah, dude.
all right. So, all right, guys, that's it. This was episode 22. I want to thank Juan for the time. I want to thank Juan for being here, and I want to thank Juan for spending the time with us here today. So, head on over to notsospecialpodcast.com. You'll have this episode, all the other ones, guys, and we'll get everything linked up for Opfob so you can see the work that Juan and all the guys at the Fob are doing. So, thanks everyone.